As we had discussed last time, a body may be subjected to three kind of forces. That is, the first kind of force is called as a body force, which acts on the entire body, and it is given as Newton per meter cube or force per unit volume. The second type of force is called as a surface force which is given as Newton per meter square, and it can be also called as force per unit area. And the third type of force is called as a point force or a concentrated force, which acts on a very small area and can be idealized as a point force. Now, while solving any two-dimensional problem using CST element or constant strain triangle element, the problem occurs when there are body forces and surface forces which are applied on any body. In finite element method, we cannot apply force or the constraints anywhere randomly, but it has to be on the nodes. And because of that, what happens is this point forces can be easily taken care of. For example, if there is a point force here at this location, what we can do is we can create one node here, and we can create one more element this side and this side, so that this load is applied directly on the node. But this is not possible when a body is subjected to, say, body force or surface force, because the body force will be applicable on the entire body, and we just cannot go on creating nodes on the entire body, because that will be that case will be similar to as that of solving a continuous body. But in finite element method, we discretize the continuous body and we obtain some finite nodes, and then we need to understand now in this section how to distribute this body force or surface force which is applied on a body on the each node, or on corresponding nodes. For example, if you see here, now this surface is subjected to the traction or the surface force here, and then it is applied continuously on the length of this side of the element. But as we had discussed just now, I cannot really apply the load like this in finite element method. What I will have to do is I will have to distribute this load on this node and this node. So now in this section, let us see how to distribute the body forces or surface forces on the nodes. Now first let us start with body force. The body force is something which acts on the entire body, and that is why we give it in terms of force per unit volume, which we had discussed last time. If I want to frame the expression for work potential using body force, I know that the work potential is nothing but force multiplied by corresponding displacement. But here, since this is a body force term, I will have to multiply it with the volume, right? I will have to multiply it with the volume, because the body force term is per unit volume. So if I multiply it with volume, I will get it as a force. So what is done here is the work potential in case of the expression of work potential, the force term is denoted by body force multiplied by volume, and the displacement is represented in this form u transpose, where u is nothing but the nodal displacement u and v at each node, right? Or q1 and q2 at each node, or u and v at each node. So for this purpose, what is done is I have considered here one typical element whose thickness is t, and then let us consider one small area here, one small area of say dA, one small area of dA. And then what we'll do is this dA multiplied by t will be the volume, and I will calculate the work potential first for this small area, that is dwp, which will be equal to this, which will be equal to the body force applicable to this small area, that is FdV, multiplied by the corresponding displacement, that is at this place, that is u and v. Fine. And then if I want to calculate the work potential for the entire element, then what I will have to do is I will have to integrate this over the entire volume. That is what exactly has been done here. And then further, if I observe this the small volume has the thickness constant throughout. What is only changing here is the small area, and therefore this small volume term dv I can further write it as t multiplied by dA, because t is a constant here. And as we had seen, u is nothing but it is a field variable which is given as u and v, but here I will be taking the transpose of this u at any point, say p in the element. So basically at this point we have considered it as u and v. This in fact this should be v, and this should be u, because u is the displacement in x direction, and v is the displacement in y direction. So this is what I get now. Now further what I can do is this body force, I can split it in all the direction. That is, body force has a component in x direction can be called as fx, the body force component in y direction can be called as fy, and the body force component in z direction can be called as fz. But since this is a two-dimensional case, we will be neglecting this, and this will be our only two body force term, that is fx and fy, which has been written here. Now if I substitute the expressions of field variable and the body force term in this expression, I will get this work potential term as, and if I bring out this constant thickness outside this integration, I will get this expression as u v multiplied by fx fy times dA, and then earlier it was the volume integral, which has been changed to now the area integral because the thickness remains constant. Now further what I can do is I can use my isoparametric representation, that is the displacements at the point. I can express it in terms of the nodal displacement using the interpolation function or shape function, and that is why the isoparametric representation will be this. Further what I can do is I can just substitute this expression for u and expression for v here. I can substitute it here at these two places, and then finally I will get this. Of course here I had brought the t outside, here I have still kept it inside, but nevertheless this is a constant term and I can always bring it outside. So at this stage we get this expression. Now further what I can do is this is 1 by 2 and this is 2 by 1, so I will finally get a one term here, that is 1 by 1, which is one term, that is this terms multiplied by this term. I'll get as this multiplied by fx plus this multiplied by fy. Now further I will have to do some rearrangement. Now at this stage I have brought this t outside, and then what I will do is this terms the displacement, the nodal displacement, and the force terms, body force terms, are independent of this area, so I can bring it outside of this integral, and then this integral will be applicable only to these shape functions, to these shape functions n1, to these shape functions n2, and to this shape function n3. So basically here this arrangement has been done in such a way that I can easily bring out these shape functions n1, n2 and n3, and whatever terms are common with respect to those three shape functions have been clubbed together. Now at this stage I will use the property of integration, that is the integration of this any shape function with respect to area will turn out to be one third of the area of the element, one third of the area of this entire element. I won't be going in detail of this proof. You may refer to any good textbook, but the integration of any shape function with respect to area will be one third of the area. And then what I can do is, and this will be true for all the shape functions, whether it is n1 or n2 or n3. So basically all these three terms, this first term, then this second term, and this third term will turn out to be one third of AE. So I will get this as a common term, one third by AE here, one third by AE here, one third by AE here, which has been brought out along with this T. So I have here T multiplied by one third of AE, and now what will remain inside is this term u1 fx plus v1 fy plus u2 fx plus v2 fy plus u3 fx plus v3 fy. And then further if I try to write this in matrix form, I again get this work potential expression as the displacements, as the displacement multiplied by these terms are nothing but the forces. This term are the force term. Now if you look here carefully, I have here six terms, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and these six terms are nothing but the force terms at the three nodes, at node 1, node 2 and node 3. The first term is nothing but the fx, this term, this t multiplied by a divided by 3 multiplied by fx at node 1, whereas t multiplied by a multiplied by 3 fy is at node 1 in vertical direction. And similarly, I get the same terms at the node 2 and at node 3. So if I further try to simplify this, I can write this work potential as the field variable times the force terms, and then the body force vectors can be further written as these terms, where A can be very well written in terms of this, which we are all aware of. Then now here at this stage, what we need to understand is the moment I get any body force, the moment I get body force components, that is fx and fy, and which are acting anywhere, which are acting over this entire element, then I can, since the FEM demands the forces, application of forces only at the node, I can distribute these forces at the nodes as following. So at this node, the distributed force, the body force component at this node will be T, that is the thickness of the element, multiplied by the area of the element, that is basically the volume of the element. Volume of the element multiplied by one third of the body force in x direction will be applied here at this node, at this node, at this node. So whatever is our body force term fx, we will divide it by 3, and we will multiply it by volume, and we will apply it in x direction at all three nodes, at one node, at this node, and at this node. And similarly in y direction, what will happen is we will divide this body force in y direction by 3, and we'll multiply it with this volume t by a, and then we'll apply it in this term at this node, at this node, and at this node. So this is how we can distribute the applied body forces at the nodes, that is by just dividing it by 3 and then multiply it by volume and applying at each node. The moment we solve some problems on it will be more clear, but for time being, to summarize, what we have understood now is whenever a body is subjected to a body force, we have to divide that body force component by 3 and apply it at the three nodes. Of course, before applying, we have to multiply those body force components with its volume. So this is what we have understood now. And then of course these are the displacement terms or the field variable terms. Here I have represented it as u1, v1, u2, v2, u3, v3. Here in this diagram, it has been represented as q1, q2, q3, q4, q5, q6. This is nothing but u1, v1, this is nothing but u2, v2, and this is nothing but u3, v3. So this was all about the case of body force, or when the body is subjected to body force, how to distribute it along the nodes, or at the nodes. And then there is one more very important case, that is of the surface force. What happens when a body is subjected to a surface force, or the traction? And this is our now next this is what next we'll be looking at, that is what happens when the body is subjected to traction. As it has been shown here the body is subjected to traction, and by this time we are well aware that we cannot apply it, this kind of loads, anywhere randomly, but it has to be distributed only at the nodes. So what I have done here is, I have assumed that one of the typical element, this element is subjected to some load in some random direction. It has been subjected to some traction in some random direction, and this element I have drawn it here. And of course here I have a global coordinate 5, I mean global node numbers 5, 11, 7. Here I have changed it to local node numbers 1, 2, and let us say this as 3. And applied traction in some random direction, what I have done is I have splitted them along the x direction and along the y direction, which we can do very well. So this t I have splitted it along x direction, and I'm calling it as tx. I'm calling it as tx, and in y direction I'm calling it as ty. I can do that. I can split the force component. I can resolve the force component in any direction that I want. And now let us see how to distribute now this forces along the node 1 and 2. Let this length of this element be, let the length of this side of this element be LE. Let LE be the length of this side. Fine. Now we know that the work potential expression is nothing but force multiplied by corresponding displacement. This is the definition of work potential as we have been looking all the time. And then here the force are nothing but, here the forces are the surface forces, and then since this surface forces happens to be applied at the boundaries, if the surface forces are applied at the boundaries, we also call them as traction. So basically this traction is a fancy word for surface force when it is applied at the boundaries. So this force can be denoted as traction multiplied by the corresponding displacement, which is shown here as ut. Now again, this surface force or the traction force is given as the force per unit area, if you remember. And because of that, I will have to multiply this traction or surface force with one small area dA. And this area is nothing but if this is our element, if say this is our element, this area will be nothing but this area, which will be this. If suppose say this is the thickness t and this is the length of the element, say LE, this is my node number 1, 2 and 3, then this is the area on which these tractions are applied. So this area will be nothing but thickness multiplied by this length LE. And since this thickness is again constant, I can further, what I can do is I can split this dA term as t multiplied by dl, where dl is the small length which I have considered initially. And then whatever study I am doing, in order to apply this on the entire element, I will integrate it over this total length LE. So this is the work potential term which I get here in this case. And then further, the traction force can be given as this, with along with these two components, that is tx and ty, the way I have represented here, tx and ty. The applied traction can be splitted in two directions, can be resolved in two directions, and I can call its component as tx and ty along x and y direction. That is what has been written here. And of course this is the field variable or the unknown parameters at the nodes, and that can be given as u and v, or q1 and q2. Then further, what I will do is I will substitute these terms u and v and tx and ty here. In place of u transpose, I will write it as u and v, and in place of t I will write it as tx and ty. And of course these terms will remain t and dl. Now again I will be using the isoparametric trial functions, or isoparametric interpolation functions, or isoparametric shape functions. And with that I know that u can be given as n1 u1 plus n2 u2. I don't require n3. I don't require here n3 because we are interested only at the two nodes here, 1 and 2. The surface forces will be distributed only on the two nodes, whereas in previous case the body force was distributed at all three nodes. But remember that the surface forces will be distributed only on the two adjacent nodes. So therefore we have restricted ourselves only to this, that is u will be u, or the displacement can be denoted displacement at anywhere in between here can be denoted in terms of the nodal displacement u1 and u2 by using shift functions n1 and n2. Similarly, v, that is the displacement in y direction, can be denoted in terms of the nodal displacement v1 and v2 in terms of the shift functions n1 and n2. Now, similarly, the tractions Tx and Ty, the traction Tx and Ty can be denoted in terms of the nodal traction Tx1 and Tx2, or the nodal tractions Ty1 and Ty2, using nothing but the same shift functions, and that is why this is called as isoparametric representation. That is, the shift functions which are used to denote the displacement in terms of nodal displacement, the same shift functions has been used to denote the tractions anywhere in between in terms of the nodal tractions, and that is why they are called as isoparametric representation. And now if I use this expressions for u, v, tx, ty in this expression, then I'll get this. So in place of u and v, what has been done here is, if I do one step further here, I will get this as le. If I multiply this by this, I will get this as utx plus vty, and then this will be multiplied by t times dl. So if I substitute here for u, if I substitute here for tx, similarly if I substitute here for v and substitute here for ty, I will get this. I'll get this. And then what I will have to do is I will have to multiply these terms. with each other. First I have multiplied this term with this term, then I have multiplied this term with this term, then this with this with this, I get up to here. Then coming to this, I have multiplied this term with this term, then this term with this term, with this term, and then again this term with this term. So finally I get this. Then again here, this integration will be applicable only to the shape functions n1, n2, and the combination of n1 and n2. Then again, if I use the properties of this integration, I will get these terms as 1/3 of le, whereas I will get these terms as 1/6 of le. And I'm sure you all are aware of this, how to carry out these integrations. uh, I had demonstrated it in my earlier videos. So finally, if I substitute wherever there is integration of n1 square, wherever there is integration of n1 n2, or wherever there is integration of n2 square, if I go on substituting this term, I'll get this as le by 3. I will get this as le by 6. Here also le by 6. Here it will be le by 3. Again here it will be le by 3. Here it will be le by 6, and here it will be le by 3. So that is what has been substituted here. This t still remains, which I have kept it outside. Now what I will do is I will combine these terms in such a way that I get these terms in terms of u1, v1, u2, v2. So basically what I have to do is I have to just bring out these terms. I will have to bring out this term u1, whatever remains I have written it inside. Then I have written this term v1. I have brought out this v1 common, whatever remains inside has been kept it here. Similarly u2, and then similarly v2. Once I get this, now what I can do is I can nicely put this in terms of a matrix. What I can do is I have now these components u1, v1, u2, v2, which I have written here, u1, v1, u2, v2. Then what I will do is, since here there is le term which is common everywhere, I have brought it out along with t, and then I have also brought out 1/6 common. So basically what I will get here is t le by 6. Now since I have brought out the t multiplied by le by 6, here we had only le by 3, so I will have to multiply this by 2, right? Because if I further multiply this, if I take this inside, now I will get it as tx1 le by 3, which I have it here. Similarly here I will get, if I multiply this term with this, I will get here tx2 le by 6, which I have it here. So basically I have brought out le by 6 from these terms common, and then further further I will get this as my work potential term, a very important result, a very important result, this as my work potential term. So these are nothing but my field variables at node 1 and 2. If you remember, this was our element, this was our node 1 and 2. So this is my u1, this is my v1, this is my u2, this is my v2. And if I multiply this corresponding displacement along with these forces, now these are the traction terms which I have to multiply with each of these nodal displacement in order to find work potential. So that means what it tells us is, if a body, or if a element, or if a two-dimensional body is subjected to the random tractions, what I can do is, the way I will have to distribute this traction on this each node is, what I will have to do is, I will have to take 2 times of tx1, then I will have to add the tx2, multiply it by tle by 6, and this will be the component at node 1 in x direction. Similarly, this will be the component at node 1 in y direction. Then this will be the component at node 2 in x direction, whereas this will be the component at node 2 in y direction. So this is how we can take care of the tractions which are applied at the boundaries. So basically, from this session, what we have understood is that the finite element method demands the applied forces only at the nodes. So problem occurs when it is subjected to distributed force or the body forces. So in this session, we have understood, in case if the body is subjected to body force or surface forces, how to distribute them on its adjacent nodes, or on the given number of nodes. And if there is a concentrated force, we don't mind it, because what we can do is, we can just create one node here, and directly then that concentrated load will be applied on a given node. So concentrated load has absolutely no problem, but the only problem occurs when it is subjected to body force or traction force, and that is what we have seen here in this session. And to solve the problem, what we'll be doing is, we can make use of these terms. The length of the side of the element can be, suppose, say, if I know all the coordinates, if I know the coordinates, of course we will be knowing the coordinates, because the coordinates has to be given. So this will be x2 comma y2, and this will be x3 comma y3. So if I want to find the length of this side, I can use this expression. If I want to find the cause of this angle, I can use this expression. Sine of the angle, I can use this expression. And suppose if it is subjected to some random pressure which varies linearly from P1 to P2, I can find these components Tx1, Ty1, Tx2, Ty2. We are using this expression. This Tx1 will be minus of cos multiplied by the applied pressure P1. The minus sign is because this pressure is acting towards the element, whereas while deriving this, we had applied the pressure, we had applied this traction away from this element. So because of that we have here minus sign. So I can very well use these expressions to solve any problem and to distribute, and with this we can very easily distribute the given pressures at node 1 and 2, or any node corresponding to this applied pressures or applied tractions.